And speaking of trees, next up, if a tree falls from Chanditan. So this is people camping and then they get attacked. So what are your thoughts on this one, Chucky?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously a first time watch because I've never been compelled to go see a piece of shit like this, but
Yeah.
barely anything happens in this movie, really. I mean, it's literally what you said. So people go out camping, they get chased after. And it's not even like suspenseful, really. It's just literally people kind of just tormenting people and chasing them if they manage to get away. But that's like, there's nothing really artfully done in this movie. Like, you see at the beginning, they've got like the grindhouse artifacts in the actual picture. But the funny thing is, they only do it a little bit, then they stop doing it for a huge chunk of the movie. Then they might bring it back a little bit, but it's like not enough to feel anywhere near authentic, so it just feels cheap. Yeah, it's just... I mean, it's got a 3.7 on IMDb, which is more than generous.
Yeah.
It's a shit movie.
Yeah, I have two things to say. I guess two things to before I talk about my thoughts on the movie. One, I actually saw this movie once before during one of my I do an October challenge every October where I try to watch a bunch of movies, and I saw this during one of the challenges, and I think it was probably during the challenge where I was able to watch 275 movies. And I say that because I literally didn't remember any of this. Like, none of this. Like, not a single thing stood out. Which might make sense because it's maybe not that much memorable about this movie. But it's also worth mentioning that when I first saw this, I watched like a version that's like only like maybe 80 minutes. And I guess according to IMDb, is it the 90-minute version that I watched and I'm guessing Chucky watched is the quote-unquote 10th anniversary edition, which is I think free on Tubi if anybody's interested. Well, it may not be free when you're listening to this, but it's free when we saw it, so not that it helps much. But so I'm sort of wondering what they changed between the, I guess, quote-unquote original edition and this one. But no matter what they did a really piss poor job, because I guess my issue with this is one, like, you know, Chucky said, there's no suspense. Two, I thought it was really pathetically bare bones. Like, these four people go camping and, like, and so they get chased by, I think it's 6 or 7 people. We don't really know anything about them. They're like cheap ripoffs from, like, The Strangers or something. So they sort of mess with them, and then, my favorite part, this made me so happy. This guy's explaining why they do it, and he says, "We find the ones who will never be found." And hey, that's why they do it. Because that makes sense. And, you know, as soon as I heard that line, like, I immediately wrote it down because I knew I was going to make fun of it in my review. Because that just, like, at least The Strangers has a, you know, because we were bored, which is not great, but I think it's okay. But we find the ones who will never be found. Whatever the fuck that means, I have no idea. So yeah, this movie annoyed me. Like, also, if a tree falls, I'm not sure if that's supposed to be some type of like metaphorical title. Like, are the characters trees and are they falling? But if they fall, are they not trees? I have no idea. It's just some pretentious title that doesn't mean anything, which is especially annoying because this movie, I mean, it's not like the movie didn't have potential. It's nice scenery. It's filmed in Canada, a few Canadian towns. It looks really nice, but the camera work is awful. Even the audio, it sucks. And when you have a movie that has sucky audio, you have problems. So, I mean, I think from pretty much beginning to end, this really didn't have that much going for it. And I can sometimes be generous with lower budget movies, but this one, talk about a waste of time.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with the camera in this, but they just do all these random awkward close-up shots of people. Like, at one point, you know, they get so close up you can start seeing boogers in their noses and stuff. But I guess there was one moment where there was the 2 chicks kind of wrestling in the mud, and I guess that was the only part that I wish went on a bit longer, because it was better than anything else that was happening in the movie. Aside from the wonderful opening scene in which they keep talking. Like there's this one horny guy, and the chick he's with is like, oh, it's really hard for me, and he's like, oh, it's hard for me too, and then she's like, I can't do this, it's too hard. I mean, that's quality writing right there.
Yeah,
You use the word hard 3 times in like the span of 10 seconds.
yeah, and the thing is, that's probably the best writing they had here, because it's not like there's a very dialogue-heavy movie. There are moments when like there's no talking for like minutes on end because all it's just chasing and like going back and forth. So I guess it's the best they could give us.
I mean, this movie almost makes me feel like I was too harsh on Dawn of the Dead. Not Dawn of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, which we rated a while back, and I think that was the lowest rated movie I ever gave, but it's almost, it's starting to make me feel like I was a little too harsh on that movie.
Yeah, because Dawn of the Dead, I infamously gave it like a 9. I did not give it a 9, but I gave it pretty. I mean, it was below average, but I gave it like an okay below average score because I was at least entertained. But this one is like void of any entertainment. It just, the killers are annoying because well, one, we don't know who they are, we don't know what they're doing. I guess they find who can't be found, but I don't know.
Which I think that's the difference between this and, like you said, The Strangers. So at least in The Strangers, I felt like it had suspense.
Yeah.
Even if you might have been a bit bothered by not knowing much about the killers, at least, there was some art to how it was filmed, I guess. Whereas this is, it's just chasing around and screaming and...
Yeah, the only suspenseful scene I can think of in this movie that might count, and I don't really think it's even that good of a scene, is when they're camping, the guys in one tent, the 2 girls in the other tent, and they hear sounds and like, oh my god, who is that? And they after a certain point they find out, oh, it's not one of the guys, so they're concerned. But then they get into this conversation that just bugged the shit out of me. Like, one of the girls is like, oh my god, I can't leave, and the other goes, well, we have to go, and she's like, oh, we can't leave, but then they were whispering, but they already knew they were there. Like, the whole whispering thing, they already know you're there, just why bother whispering? It didn't make sense, which is fine, because it's not like this movie was going out of the way to, like, impress people who try to find story. I don't know, it just, and plus the ending. And I just think the ending's particularly surprising. Like, oh my god, the last surviving person was now found, and so, I don't know. But the ending was horrible. The one thing I'll say about it that was okay was maybe the special effects. For a low budget movie, the special effects, when they came up, they weren't terrible. But it's nowhere near enough to actually make this, worth watching.
Yeah. Yeah, it's shit.
Indeed. So, I am going to throw this movie, and I was actually hoping I would actually remember it this time around, because I was interested in seeing how I thought about it, and I was really disappointed. I had no idea it was going to be this atrocious. Because, believe it or not, on IMDb, when I rated this before, I gave it a 6. So I have no idea. I think I just gave it a 6 just to give it a rating to let me know I saw it. So, yeah, it's nowhere near a 6. I gave this one maybe a harsh score based on what these people have to work with, but I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. The points are for the special effects. I like the Canadian scenery, but boy, this was a really hard movie to get through. I really would recommend this to anybody for any reason. So 3 out of 10. Deal with it, bros.
Yeah, I was tossing up between a 1 and a 2. And I think the only thing stopping me from giving it a 1 is like what you said, some of the special effects at the end were, I mean, most notably at the end there, they were alright. I feel like, and this is why I said I feel like I was probably a little too harsh on Dawn of the Dead, because I don't think I would dislike that any more than I dislike this movie. So I don't know, maybe we need to watch Dawn of the Dead again just so I can re-rate it. But
oh boy.
Yeah. But yeah, this will get a 2 out of 10 because I still feel like, even though this is a fucking shit movie, premium shit movie, I still feel like there's shittier out there. if this movie had terrible effects to go with it, that would have been then the definition of a 1 out of 10 for me. But yeah, luckily, I guess they had that, so they escape getting the elusive 1 out of 10 from me. For now.
Yeah, I was curious to see what the first movie we review by you is going to get that, so we were so close this time. We're going to have to try harder next time.
Well, I mean, Dawn of the Dead already got it, but like I said, I'm going to probably change that rating because I think I felt like I just had to give it a 1 because I hadn't given anything a 1 yet. But, yeah. Anyways, there were a few giggles in that movie.
I mean, you could certainly argue it's a do or die situation, Chucky.
Nice. That sucked.